Hi everybody, Marcus Gans here to talk to you about how to tweak your schedule standings using Splendid City. Um, from what I understand, Splendid City positions the team rank of the standings using a point system. Let's examine a sample standing I have here by clicking this standings button here. View the schedule's current standings. And here you can see the Historians are ranked first. They have 13 points. Predators are ranked second. They have 9. Voracious ranked third. They have 8. So on and so forth. So how do we customize these points? We want to be able to understand what it is that compounds these points and how can we control that. So in order to control that, you need to visit your Splendid City preferences. And that can be done by selecting this button here from the project viewer. Open the SCS options panel. And here you see the Splendid City preferences, and you choose this standings. Here will bring you to the standings panel. Now here you see the option to compound points for, and then you'll see a list of win, loss, tie, overtime loss, all games won, shutout win, and Swiss by goals for. All of these fields are editable, and you can customize these with any values you like. In addition to that, you have this More Choices button here, which will also give you some other options. Let's take a look at some of those options. Our first choice here is we can compound a point for each goal or run scored. And you could specify a limit, a tournament limit, for each point per goal. And our second option, we have a point per goal per game. So for each run scored or each goal scored, you can accrue 1 or more points. And you can also specify a cap or a limit for the number of points you can accrue in that manner. Here you see this score differential limit, which is useful in the case of you want to prevent blowout games where some teams can they enjoy decimating their competitors, and a lot of times that can be discouraging for the losing team. So in this case, you can impose a rule where only say perhaps a score of more than 10 difference would incur a penalty. So you could say a score difference of 10 would incur a penalty of -1 to discourage teams from having blowout games. Now in this case you have scoring plateau here, scoring plateau 1, which means if a certain number of goals have been reached in the course of an event, you can compound points to reward the team for that effort. And in a subsequent scoring plateau here, say perhaps a higher plateau, if that is reached, then you can compound additional points for that as well. So those summarizes your options to compound points given a game result, a certain game result. Now in the case of you have a tie where 2 or more teams have the same number of points that have been accrued, you can use this standing tie resolution scheme. You can see here that these algorithms are evaluated in descending order, and the choices you have include greater number of wins, goal differential, higher goals for, lower goals against, and head-to-head winner, which can be useful. And if you make a change and you want to revert everything back to what it was originally set to, you can choose to reset this panel to the factory default settings. So that basically summarizes our preferences with regards to standings and how to allocate points to rank teams. Now let's take a look at how users would enter scores. Now if you can invoke the Game Properties panel by double-clicking any game event in the Schedule View interface, and that will allow you to enter a score for a game event. And let's say this team has won. The Horsemen have beat the Patriots 5-2. Now, if you've made an error and you want to revert back to the game not being played, you would just select these revert back to NA, not applicable, which would essentially make the game be unplayed again. And in addition to that, you can have these additional actions, and you can manually add result points if you want by selecting this option, and you can manually append points, say for an unusual circumstance where a team has earned the right to gain additional points. Okay, so now in the event of a forfeited game, you can specify that by typing a lowercase f for the team that forfeited, and you must enter a score result for the victor team, for the winning team. You can specify 0 or whatever you would like for them to accrue in terms of runs or goals for their standings. Now, in addition to that, you have this option here to save results to an XML score file. Well, what is that? Well, if you're a league administrator and you've distributed a Splendid City project file to all your team managers, you can facilitate entering the score by having them, the individual teams, fill out or complete these panels and saving them as score files, which can be emailed to you or to whoever the administrator is. And Splendid City automatically generates a file and gives it a game index, game 32. And you can save that to a folder or wherever you want and email those results back to the administrator, who can then visit his standings panel here and load those score objects from a directory that he may have placed them all in. So by selecting that, load the score objects, he selects the scored files, and by clicking open, the results have automatically been updated. You can see here the Historians have accrued 16 points now and Voracious 10. And as well, the game index has been grayed out, which indicates that the scores for those games have been updated, have been completed. One other thing I would like to bring to your attention is these values up here can be modified in the output for if you're publishing a website and you would like this output to reflect more like what your league offers. Some leagues don't offer it's irrelevant to have overtime loss or goals for or goals against or games back for that matter. You can modify those columns in your Splendid City preferences again, and by visiting the output panel here and choosing the standings tab, and you can see here that all of those parameters can be modified. In this case, there's a baseball club, so we don't specify goals for, but instead we specify runs for, and they can be internationalized as well for different languages and whatnot. And you can also omit or include certain columns, like in the case of a basketball tournament, you don't usually have tie games, so there's no need for that column, so you could just exclude that by unchecking it, and so on and so forth. So that pretty much summarizes what you can do with Splendid City, how you can customize your Splendid City standings, and I think you'll agree it's fairly comprehensive. And that concludes this explanation. Thank you very much.